Ghost Hunting in New England,
your favorite spooky podcast. Hello and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Season 6, first episode of Ghost Hunting in New England with your hosts Amelia
and Beth.
Season 6, Season 6, Season 6. We're here. We made it. Season 6, Beth.
Season 6, Amelia.
Woo! Very exciting.
Season 6, listeners. Thanks for sticking with us.
Exciting stuff. And this is going to be the best season yet.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Beth, what were you doing in between seasons? How have you been the last 3 months?
I have been very, very busy. Very busy.
Oh, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been very much hanging out in my house. I have been staying away. I don't know what I've been doing. I've been doing nothing. I kept saying that I was going to do research for this season, and I never got to it. I went to Walt Disney World. I spent a week there, and so that's pretty much the excitement that I've had. Oh, my older son, I think he was engaged during last season, but now he and the fiance have bought a house.
Ooh, congratulations, yes. Mike.
Yes. Congratulations, Michael and Rachel. And you, Amelia, what have you been doing with your time since the last season?
Hanging out, not a lot. What have I been doing? I went on a very nice investigation with Barry Corbett over at Wessagusset. And I think that was the only investigating I've really done. I've done some research here and there, but I haven't really been to any places, I have to admit. The last 2 days I've been hanging out at the set of Boston Strangler. That's been really fun. I got in a little background scene with Keira Knightley, who is somehow even more beautiful in person than she is on the big screen. So that was very exciting for me. Oh, Beth, actually, I did have something happen to me recently that I told you about. And I told some of our listeners about if they follow us on Instagram and Facebook, which you all should be doing at Ghost Hunting in New England. And that is, I was downstairs in my house and I noticed that part of one of my walls collapsed. And I was like, uh-oh. Oh, no, that's not what you want.
In your brand new house that you just bought. Yeah, one
new
of the walls fell down.
New to me. Yeah. So I went over and I looked and I was like, I called my husband and he's like, oh, I heard that. And I was like, because he had been in the room. I'm like, what do you mean you heard it and you just did nothing? Whatever. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is we went and we looked.
That's the point of a whole different story.
It's a very different story for a very different podcast. But we went and we looked and there was like a Michael Bublé CD and this empty VHS cassette for Mighty Mighty Ducks. And we're like, what the heck is this about? This is really weird. And so it's right under my doorbell. And probably like 5 or 6 weeks before, the doorbell kept going off in the middle of the night, in the evening. And then 1 a.m. it went off, 2 a.m. it went off, 2:30. And it just kept going until I just whacked the thing a few times. Just like old school, like punched it and it shut off. But
percussion adjustment.
I was really nervous because I kept remembering how Will Fox always talk about like the black-eyed children, how you can't invite them in your house. And I remember at one point saying to Paul, like, we can't answer the door. Like, what if it's like ghost person or something? And we obviously we looked outside, right? Like the first 2 times in case it was someone. And we're like, it's like a kid. What is it? Mm-hmm. And so anyway, now this happened. And so cut to a few weeks later, my wall has collapsed. And I find these little treasures inside. And all of a sudden my phone runs out of batteries. So I'm like, no, it's a little funny because everyone who knows me knows my phone is never out of batteries. It's always charged and it's always on. So I fly up my stairs.
She's only slightly exaggerating with that, by the way. Only slightly. It's always in her hand.
It's always in my hand. Yeah. And if it's not in my hand, it's because I'm wearing my watch that it all goes to right on my wrist. Mm-hmm. So I flip the stairs to charge my phone. I turn on my hallway light at the top of the stairs and it like, when they like burst the lights. Mm-hmm. So like all of a sudden there's like this giant blue like flash and it just burst. And I was like, we got a problem in here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something's going on at your house.
Something's going on here. So what's going on? I don't know. I asked a good friend of the show, Jamie Day, and she's like, I don't think it's anything bad. So I just go with that. I'm like, all right.
Meanwhile, I said to Amelia, first of all, I said, I have a VHS player. Let's watch the tape because I bet it's not Mighty Ducks. But then after that, I said, well, didn't you know the people that lived in the house? Why don't you reach out to them and let them know? Because maybe they have some ongoing like family fight about, now I know you stole my Michael Bublé CD. No, I didn't steal it. It was like some sort of family legend. So I suggested that she reach out to them and be like, hey, just so you know, it's in the wall. I don't think that she did that though, did you?
No.
So if that old
they made it kind of clear that they're not down for that. We found some of their stuff previously to this. Like we found some old photos and things that like they might want. And I was like, we found these things. Would you like them? And they were like, you can drop it off at like our cousin's house. And like that was it.
Anyway, right into the show and tell us which one of us you think is right. Should Amelia contact that family or not?
Should Amelia contact the children of both the people who died in this house? Or
what? No.
Should we leave it alone?
No. That's not what's happening.
That is what happened. Both their parents died. That's why we got the house. I mean, they were older. I mean, and natural causes and everything like that. That's something that we had these people coming and doing like an energy assessment of our house. And we were talking about them. My house is very old. It was built in 1805. And we were talking to the guy about it. I mentioned the podcast and like what I do. And he was like, oh, like, is your house haunted? And I was like, well, just about everyone who's lived here has died. And he like the look on his face when I said that. And I was like, but in fairness, it's because they all lived very long lives in this home. Like,
yeah, they died at like 98 years old.
Yeah. Or like of natural causes, like, like cancer, things like that. I just always say people, they like this house. So what are you most looking forward to this season, Beth? Oh,
well, before what we're looking forward to this season, I want to say that throughout my meetings at work today, I might have got us like 10 new listeners. So if my new work colleagues are listening, hi. That's all.
So Beth, what are you most looking forward to season 6? We have some cool interviews we're going to be doing, and I'm really looking forward to going to the S.K. Pierce mansion with Boston Paranormal Investigators, tagging along with them. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I forgot we were going there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great time.
I am now very much looking forward to that too. So because it's February, right? And we love Amelia's idea about I'd rather be ghosted. Next week, we should have something fun about I'd rather be ghosted. And coming up at the end of the season, Amelia had a really phenomenal idea about taking one of our favorite authors and looking at some haunted locations associated with that author. We would like to recruit the Ghost Hunting in New England Army to help us convince Stephen King to come on and give us a little 10-minute interview. If you could tweet at him, email him, I don't know his email address, go to his publisher's website, reach out and do all of those things. And I will be doing the same things. You should see Amelia. She's just grinning at me like I'm a fool.
No, I support it. I've had us do it before. I think it's great.
Yeah. Let's get Stephen King on Ghost Hunting in New England.
Let's get him in.
Oh, hey, there's somebody here.
Okay, so we have a very exciting interview with us. 2 guests joining us today. The Paranormal Couple, Cody Ray DesBiens and Satori Hawes from the Travel Channel series Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation are paranormal investigators with the Atlantic Paranormal Society, aka TAPS, founded by Satori's father, Jason Hawes, in 1990. Together, they are also curators of the Paranormal Couple's Haunted Museum of Objects, Oddities, and Curiosities, which is currently featuring a touring exhibition that displays up to 100 presumed haunted objects that have been selected from the museum to do their intriguing stories. So hi guys, welcome.
Hi.
How are you? Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for being on with us tonight. So to get started, tell us about what you guys do and about the Haunted Museum.
Sure. Well, Satori and myself are both investigators with TAPS, And pretty much every weekend, we are helping a family. So TAPS isn't just the team featured on Ghost Hunters. It's always been a team that would help families first and foremost. So not every case gets featured on the show. The part of the team that Satori and myself are mainly part of is the team that would go to the private cases and investigate and help families. And it would never be featured on television. It was always kept private. And along the route of investigating these private locations, once in a while we would come across a case where it was believed that the catalyst of the haunting revolved around an object. And it's extremely rare to come across a case where an object is causing all of the phenomena. But it's in more recent days, especially with Hollywood, a lot of people believe that they have a haunted object, whether it really is or not. So we get a lot of calls from people who believe they have something when in reality it might not truly be active. So
you mean people believe things they see on TV and hear on podcasts and stuff? Really?
Yeah, well, they do. Unfortunately, sometimes they do. And, television is great in some ways. I mean, we are, of course, periodically on television. And, we can definitely say that everything that we do on TV is legit. But, Hollywood movies and things like that definitely play a role in people's fear, which is unfortunate. Everything is made out to be bad and negative and things like that. So we try to turn that around as best as we can.
That's great. We have a really similar sort of idea here on Ghost Hunting in New England, that it's not all bad energy, right? Like energy is energy, and there's all sorts of different energies in the world. So that's great to hear that there are lots of other organizations out there that also think that that it's not all bad hauntings. And I totally understand though that bad hauntings sell movies,
Yes.
and make for good TV. But
Absolutely, fear sells, and I wish it was the other way around, but it's not. And it's entertaining. I mean, we like the scary movies too, but when it comes to this stuff, unfortunately, a lot of people take it seriously. It's unfortunate, but we try to help.
One thing I'm always curious about is, as the pandemic's been going over the last 2 years now, have you guys found like an uptick in people being at home with their objects and thinking that they're haunted or finding out that they're haunted?
Yes, we found that actually during the pandemic, when it was kind of in the height of it, that's when we really started to push our social media presence. But we found that a lot of people were claiming that they had objects that were haunted or cursed or possessed and things like that. And they were terrified. They didn't want to stay in the same home, because a lot of them claimed that they didn't realize this until they spent all the time at home and they were around these items 24/7. So our mission is to really help you coexist with your items. We don't really want to take them off your hands right away. We're more of a foster home for objects, so we'll take care of them. They're still your objects. You can always have them back if you want, but we'll take them off your hands if you find that you need that. So we really try to teach people how to live with these objects, especially during the pandemic when everyone's kind of stuck at home. But if they can't, that's where we come in. So yes, we have noticed a uptick in paranormal activity and claims around objects and homes, all of it, because of the pandemic.
And how does someone know if their object is haunted or cursed or nothing? Or one thing I always think about when I think of haunted objects is it could be haunted or it could just have an energy about it, right? Like you guys just said, or someone could be wearing it. Like if you had like an old piece of jewelry or something, I for one, really believe in stone tape theory and that objects can kind of store energy. And that doesn't mean it's haunted. It just has that, right? Like I could wear my grandmother's ring and feel my grandmother near me, or whenever I look at it, I think of her, but it doesn't mean that something crazy is going on around it.
Yes, 100%. I think we believe that not all of our objects in the museum are haunted, obviously. We would be lying if we said that. And we do believe some of them are more a residual type haunting, or just an energy that's kind of within this object that has been, that person that loved it in life loved it so much that it's kind of replaying and using that energy. So we believe that we do have some objects like that as well.
Right. We've also noticed more recently a lot of people calling us saying that they were drawn in to purchase a certain object or something like that at a secondhand store. We have a lot of objects that came
Yard
from
sales,
estate sales and yard sales and all different things. And I think part of it is, like Satori said, think of something you love a lot and maybe you would want to check in on after death. And maybe once your stuff gets sold off in an estate sale or something like that, and it goes to a new home, maybe the person who originally owned it doesn't really like its new environment, doesn't really like its new owner. And maybe that's when things start picking up a little bit and things get a little scary. And then once it moves to a different location, things calm down again. We found that there's this acclimation period that once an object is removed from a location and put in the museum, every object that we get, we put through a quarantine period, about 2 weeks, where we sit it in a room by itself and put cameras on it and different types of equipment to see, what's going on, just observe and monitor it. And we find that 9 times out of 10, nothing happens during this period. We've had some objects that it's taken about 1.5 years to actually live up to its claims. And of course, we have objects that don't live up to their claims at all. There's different types of energies for sure. We have noticed that the energies do interact with each other. The museum is sectioned off into different sections, tribal section, doll section, and things like that. And they definitely do seem to interact with each other, which is interesting to watch. There's many different energies, residual, intelligent. And, I believe that, your energy in life continues in death. So whatever your attitude here is on earth, you also retain that attitude on the other side. And, we can definitely sense the different attitudes.
Not everything's a demon that's trying to possess you.
Yes.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's not. But I'm really drawn, Cody, by something you just said right now. You said 9 out of 10 times, nothing happens in that 2 weeks. Well, I think that a 10% reaction, if you will, is pretty impressive, actually. So I was wondering, maybe could you tell us about, something that you've seen happen in, like, what would you see happen that would be a reaction, if you will?
Sure. Yes, it is. It is extremely rare. We have about 350 objects and counting. So that 10% is small. But there have been times where you'll get a little movement. And we've noticed that once stuff starts to, occur, once the claims start to become a reality, it's small and then it becomes gradual over time. So you might see a little movement and then maybe a month later, it might move a little more, or you might get an EVP or something like that.
Yes, we also do have a couple select few of the most haunted items in our collection, which means they always constantly do something. We do, for example, have a mask that we obtained in New Orleans from Africa. It was actually brought over from Africa. And we found that it is a death mask. It's from Africa, from a ceremony. And it always smells like campfire. And this was one of the claims. Campfire, they would see images of people dancing around a fire and they would hear voices. It was really a lot of energy that this person was experiencing. So we took it, and just in the car rides, it smells like campfire. We've actually done events where we've had to make sure we keep it in quarantine, then take it to our events to make sure everything's okay. And people have come running out of a tent saying, "Oh, you're displaying this object. Your tent smells like a fire. We need to get out of here. It's just so overpowering." So he always proves his claim. You always hear voices and smell fire. We do have our doll, Liza, too, the most haunted object. Soon as we put her in quarantine, not much happened. She moved around. And we did put her in a doll section and had to put her back in quarantine because she turned all their heads around. So all the other dolls' heads completely around. So this happened about 3 times and we had to put her back in quarantine. She moves everywhere.
Right.
Wow.
And yeah,
Wow.
some of the claims sound out there. But like I said, I think when you have so much energy inside of a room, inside of multiple rooms, I think it builds up collectively and you get experiences like that. And, that's why we've set up security cameras inside the museum to record some of this stuff. And we've gotten some compelling video footage and things like that. And it's even more compelling when you're the one recording it, when you know that there's, no string attached to anything or anything like that. It creeps me out every time I see them till this day, because it's just so amazing. And an inanimate object shouldn't be defying the laws of gravity like that. It's interesting stuff for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
That is definitely interesting. So you guys brought up Liza, and would you be willing to tell our listeners a little bit about the backstory of Liza?
Of course. Do you want to take this or do you want me to?
Well, we can kind of bounce off each other. I guess I'll start. So I did an interview, and, like most interviews, I give my contact information, and the museum was brought up. And at that point, it was just a collection with just a few things. A gentleman called me the next day, and the first thing he says was, help me, make it stop. And, right away, when somebody calls, usually it's just a typical house haunting, and they need help that way. And, the last thing I was expecting was for him to be talking about a doll.
Yes. And we asked him further, like, calm down, what's going on? And he was saying that he was hearing voices in his head from this doll named Liza. And she was telling him to do bad things to himself and other people. It was a dangerous situation. At first, we thought maybe this gentleman wasn't mentally sound. Obviously, you have to look into that first instead of assuming dolls doing it. So we had a psychologist check him out. And she said he checked out. He was okay. He was going through a really tough time right now from what she could tell talking to him. And it seemed like his life was really going downhill. A lot of bad luck is what he would claim it to be. So he was struggling. So we contacted him again and asked about this doll, Liza. And he said, like, she's always with him. She's talking to him. So we said, sir, we don't promote the destruction of objects, but why didn't you just throw this item out if it was causing so much trouble to you? And he said, I do. She just keeps coming back. What he meant by that was he had thrown her outside in the garbage, and the garbage men felt compelled to take her out of the garbage, clean her off, and leave her for him to find at a later time. So he felt that he couldn't get rid of this doll. So we agreed. We said, if you need to get rid of this item, we will meet you in a public place and we will take this item away. So we did. He wouldn't tell us where he got it, which was a little strange. It makes us wonder what happened or how he obtained it. And we talked to him a little bit after we had taken this item. He seemed perfectly fine, like his life was all back to normal again. And then he disappeared. We haven't been able to contact him in a couple of years now. It's like he never existed. So we put this item in the museum around just a bunch of other dolls after quarantine. Like I said, the first one, she didn't do much. And we had to move her away from this section because all the dolls' heads kept turning around. Their bodies would turn around. If their heads couldn't move, they'd be knocked over. About the third time, we fixed them and realized, wait, there's only one variable that's different. And why are all their heads turning around? So we had to move the entire section across the museum and put her on a shelf because she kept getting out of every case we put her in anyway. So we sat her on a shelf like a normal item, and she loves it there. She moves around there, but she never causes trouble in that section anymore.
Yes. And keep in mind that, this type of activity is extremely rare, and not every object is living up to that potential for sure. But this is one of those rare cases. And that's why she's, at the top of the list. If you were to
footage of her.
Yeah. If you were to put all the objects in order from, most haunted or whatever you would like to say, enchanted from top to bottom, she'd definitely be at the top of the list for sure. Just because there's so much activity happening. Most of the objects, I think it's just a spirit checking in once in a while. Maybe they life and they just want to see how it's doing. This one, it seems like something's always around.
Intelligent. She's very sassy, but she's very smart. So.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, has anybody else heard her talking to them, is she telling anyone else to do things, or?
We haven't had any experiences like that with her, thankfully. We have had some people that claim to be sensitives and psychics and things of that nature come up to us and say something about that doll without even knowing the story yet. They go, I don't want to be around her. She's doing bad things. She's not a nice person. So we kind of take what they say into consideration. We had some people feel very ill around her, feel that they're very paranoid around her. We have captured audible voices. We've heard audible voices with our own ears of a very thick accent, a woman with a very thick accent talking, and it's always very stern, very snappy. But we thankfully have not had anybody claim that they've been told to do things.
Thankfully not, no. And if anybody gets the chance of visiting one of the traveling exhibitions, in each section, we give the opportunity for visitors to write down their feelings on a piece of paper, and then they drop it in a box. Collectively, we hope that this will, be a form of data collection. If, 80% of people are all feeling the same thing around certain objects, and that definitely adds to what's happening around it. And we've gotten a lot of remarks on Liza. A lot of people walking up to her and saying that they see her start, shaking back and forth by herself, which, obviously shouldn't be happening. Points in time and people feeling the same feelings of like oppression and feeling like they're underwater. So she definitely gives off some feelings that other people are feeling for sure. Myself, I don't really feel that different around her. But I think everybody's different. And I think a majority of people that are feeling these effects are statistically women. I think women are definitely more sensitive to the paranormal. And maybe maybe there's something to that. I don't know, but she's definitely giving off some sort of energy.
Yeah. Satori, do you have a strong feeling around Liza, or are you like, she's kind of like everybody else? I guess I'm indirectly asking, how sensitive are you?
Well, I'm not very sensitive unless he's in the mix for some reason. But I do get some strange feelings around her, but it's more of, I don't feel like she's anything evil. I just think she's always there. She's always listening and likes to cause trouble. So that's the feeling I get. Very mischievous, very my way or no way, stubborn.
One thing that you guys said briefly is that you don't condone the destruction of objects. Could you talk a little bit about that and why that is?
Well, everybody has a different belief system and we respect all of it. We're just very, I guess, hands-on and caring no matter what the item is. I mean, we've gotten items that have been claimed that if you look at them, you're supposed to die or you're cursed and things like that. And we treat them the same as any other object that comes into our museum. We have ground rules. We make sure that we say, hey, we respect you, you respect us. So we have never had an issue with these objects. We're very protected in our beliefs. For the destruction of objects, I believe personally, if I was to pass away and I love something so much, and I saw somebody take this item, figure out I was attached to it, or I was checking in on it, and destroy it purposely with as I know this is going on, I would be very upset. So we just say we don't really promote the destruction of objects because we fear that if somebody goes, I'm going to destroy this doll to make things go away, that item, that spirit attached to that item, if there is one, is not going to be very happy with you when you do. And activity could get potentially worse. I mean, it's not 100% of science yet. We don't really know what's going to happen, but our belief system, what we found is that people's activity has gotten worse after destroying objects they think are haunted. So we just say, let us take it off your hands. You don't have to have it back ever again. Just don't destroy it so they don't get mad at you.
Right. And, like Satori said, everybody, does this differently. We're definitely not the only couple that has a haunted museum out there, or the only individuals that have a haunted museum. And thankfully, we become friends with a lot of the people that have come before us. We've always been friends with the Warren family and John Zaffis, who has, his museum in Connecticut, and everybody kind of shares their opinion. I mean, the Warrens, they had a priest come in every week and bless their museum because that was the faith that they believed in. They didn't even want to touch their objects with their bare hands. And, that's okay too. If they believe that protect their skin while holding objects protects them, then that's fine. We're totally comfortable picking up our objects because, we feel comfortable doing so. And that's what we believe, that, we won't get hurt or be possessed or anything like that by picking up, an object. So everybody does things differently.
That's a really good point. There are so many different ways of everybody doing all of their stuff with their enchanted or haunted or, possessed or just energy filled objects. So doing what works for you is probably always going to be your best bet.
Absolutely. Whatever you believe in, if you're a devout Catholic, sage and crystals probably isn't going to be your thing because, do it, but it probably won't have an effect because you don't believe in that. Prayer is what you would believe in. So you have to do whatever you believe in. I usually tell people, if you believe that a jug of milk is going to protect you, then you believe in that jug of milk to protect you. And it'll probably work. Whatever your intentions are set on, that's what's going to work.
So another thing that I'm really interested in is when you guys said, talking about like the audible voices you hear, and I had read on your website too, that you guys have this kind of energy when you're together, that things happen when the two of you investigate together. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We just, kind of became really public about this in the recent months, and especially now. We just did it for the first time on Ghost Hunters, so that's when the public really became aware of this. So I've always been a very technical-based investigator. I have a background in physics, and I really solely relied on equipment. And unfortunately, and I say this now, unfortunately, I never really paid attention to the metaphysical side of things. And I think that was a big mistake on my part. And now I do. So once Satori and myself met for the first time, I was on the TAPS team for about 5 years before she joined. She decided to join, and once she did, we immediately were paired up together, and we thought the location that we were at was extremely active, and that was the end of the case. The next case comes, we're paired up, and activity starts happening around us again. And the only way I can explain it is, I think when two living energies meet and they fit together like a perfect puzzle piece, I think it enhances the activity you get in return. It's almost like flipping on a light switch. And if there are other investigators out there, most likely you'll find that when you're with a certain group of people, especially if you're at a public event or something like that, at a location that you've been to many times, you'll notice that the different people that come in on a certain night may change your results, and may change the whole vibe of the investigation. So in return, I think when you have two people that really have a strong connection, I think it really enhances the activity. And that's what happens with Satori and myself. So when we found that when we hold hands, it really heightens this activity. For some reason, we have no idea why. We're not, mediums or anything like that.
I'm as psychic as a bag of rocks.
Exactly.
I like to say that.
Yeah, we can't sense, spirits. We can sense them just as well as any other normal individual could. If you do this often, we can't see them or hear them. But something strange happens when we hold hands and try to communicate. We just can't explain it. It's really strange
and romantic.
Right.
That's really nice.
That's a beautiful story.
What a nice story. That's gives you all the feels. That's a good one.
I love your image there of two puzzle pieces just fit together. Can our next podcast be a love connection podcast? This would be great. Haunted love connections.
Oh, very cool. So you guys mentioned how you put your objects in quarantine for a while, but how else do you kind of conduct an investigation around the objects? Do you just have it in the quarantine and kind of be watching it that way?
The object stays in quarantine for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then after that period, it gets moved into like the general population of the museum, like we'd like to call it, into its, section that it belongs in. And after that point, it's hard to pinpoint which object the activity is coming from, because you have literally hundreds of objects that have very similar claims of seeing like shadow people and voices and knocking and banging and things like that and moving on their own. So unless the object moves on its own by itself, that's the only way you can tell that the activity is coming from that object. There have been cases where, we'll do events and we'll bring like 10 objects and we'll spread them out throughout the location. And that is a much better way to, kind of hone in on which object is giving activity. But in the museum base, it's hard to pinpoint where it's coming from. But that quarantine period definitely helps out with establishing its activity strength in its new location. And we can compare it to what's been happening at its old location. And we found that the 2 to 3 week period is the perfect amount of time to really get that baseline.
I hate to compare them like this, but it's also like, when you get for example, a fish and you want to make sure it's acclimated to its new tank environment. So you kind of put the bag, but you slowly incorporate it into the tank. That's what we do with our objects, because if you just take these items and throw them in our museum, at least from what we found, it seems that the activity will just go from 0 to 60 real fast if there's activity. Maybe somebody's not comfortable being around that other object, or maybe the energy just doesn't mix very well and some bad reactions happen. So that's why we kind of like slowly but surely incorporate our objects.
Oh, it almost sounds like a big party happens that everybody's like, hey, there's somebody new here. Who's here? Let's go find out. Hey, I haven't seen you in ages. And
that's why we have to do it slowly, because it's either a lot of excitement or a lot of anger about something.
That makes total sense.
It does. Very
it seems
cool.
like the safest plan. Absolutely.
It is.
So what has the response been to the traveling exhibition that you guys do?
Well, the public has perceived it very well. We try to make it a very unique experience and a very immersive experience, depending on the location we're at. So the traveling exhibition mainly visits different haunted locations and events around the country, mainly in the New England area per se. We do most of our events up here, and in the haunted location situation, we'll bring in up to 100 objects at some locations and set them out throughout the location inside of the haunted building. And then we'll, conduct just tours where people can come in and tour the objects and read about the history and things like that, which I love. I love the stories behind each of the objects, even if they're not living up to their, paranormal potential. We're still sharing their stories, and people have donated objects just to keep their loved ones' names alive. So telling those stories and having that on our shoulders is a big thing, because we definitely want to keep their memory alive and let people hear their story. So that's my favorite part. So the public really loves reading the stories.
And we're teaching people about things that they may not even remember very much. For example, one of the objects in our museum that is believed to be haunted are children's polio braces. It's, but we can tell the story of the polio outbreaks to people and show them that this was a real thing. People suffered, and just imagine what kind of energy could have been left behind from these traumatic events like that. So it's teaching, and it's a lesson. If you're not really even into the paranormal, we have something for you. At least you'll leave with some more knowledge, hopefully, about something.
Do you guys have any upcoming events?
So everything is listed on our website, paranormalcouple.com, and it's updated every weekend. There's a lot of things in the works right now that just haven't been finalized yet, but most of the events happen around the fall time as far as the museum goes. There are some scattered between now and then. And then there's a lot of events where it's just Satori and myself, and usually we bring one or two items from the museum if we're appearing at an event, just to share their stories and let the public see them in person. But we're always doing live streams on our Facebook page and just trying to keep in touch with the public and share these stories to the world. We also have our membership program where we send a copy of a case file to our members every single month and then go over it with them. And we found some unique information that we would have never found if it wasn't for the museum members and patrons, because everybody has a different way of thinking. And when you put a big group of people together all talking about the same item, it definitely is some interesting topics that come up that you would have never thought of. And then you're like, wait a minute, this makes sense. Maybe this is the reason why there's activity happening with an object. So we really love the community that we've built, and we love meeting people in person too. So we're glad that the world is heading in that direction again.
Yeah, for sure.
That's terrific. Can you talk a little bit more about the membership club? And is it just a monthly case file that you do, or are there more things that kind of go along with being a member of that club? Or
yes, so our Patreon was actually created to kind of help fund for some of the things in the museum. Our goal is to make sure that these items have temperature controlled environments. They're taken care of properly. Some of them are very, very old and very worn. So that's what that's for. We have all different types of tiers, down to just, we'll send you a card and a sticker or a keychain every month, all the way up to all different things. So we have a case file tier. If some people are also interested, I do a spiritual subscription, which isn't necessarily like a witch box or anything, but it has crystals and herbs and different things. So I can show you, like, hey, if you're interested in the spiritual side of the paranormal, let me show you some things that I like to do, incense, things of that nature, meditation. So that's what I really like to do. That is a tier, and you can also get a case file with that. It just really goes up and up and up. So we have everything for everyone, and we're just going to possibly keep adding to it. We were even talking about adding to it just to kind of make a fun community every month.
Right. Yeah, I love the people that have definitely become our close friends that are supporting the museum. And of course, if you support the museum, you get different discounts or tickets to events that you're appearing at and things like that. So we definitely try to give back for people that help us out. And like Satori said, the money's not going in our pockets; it's going in the museum's pockets per se, and helping keep these objects around for much longer. At least while they're in our care, we want them to be well taken care of.
that's awesome.
if people want to find out more information on that or get in contact with you guys about their own haunted objects, how can they do that?
Well, the email is contact@paranormalcouple.com. Again, the website is paranormalcouple.com or theparanormalcouple.com. Either, URL will lead you to the same place. You can send us a message on our Facebook page, Paranormal Couples Haunted Museum. We try to answer all of our messages. We try our best, at least, and it may take us a day or two, but feel free to reach out to us on any social media platform or anywhere that we're at. Reach out and we'll do our best to get back to you. And like we mentioned before, the priority isn't to get the biggest haunted collection in the world. We just really, the main goal is to help people. And a lot of times an object that somebody thinks has activity is something that was passed down in their family, a family heirloom or something like that. So the last thing that we want to do is take that away from you. So we'll give you advice on how to coexist with this object inside of your home. So you don't have to get rid of it. So you can keep it in your possession, maybe not look at it every day, but you know that it's still in your possession and you're able to coexist with it. If worse comes to worse and you need a safe home to place it, like Satori said, we've been nicknamed the foster home for haunted objects. Our museum, we like to think it's a safe space for these items. But till this day, anybody that's donated an object hasn't called to get it back yet, which I think is funny because it says a lot about their claims and what they believe is happening with the object. But feel free to reach out to us, even if you have a question or just want to say hello.
Awesome.
Fabulous.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. We've had so much fun talking to you and really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, gosh, Beth, wasn't that great?
That was terrific. I'm so glad they took the time to come and talk with us. They're so sweet.
They are sweet. They're very, very nice people and so well spoken. You get like cool modern Ed and Lorraine Warren vibes from those two. Like they have like the nice story. They're cool people. So thank you so much to Cody, Ray, DesBiens, and Satori Hawes for coming on The Paranormal Couple and being so cool and talking to us about haunted objects. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Are they in Rhode Island?
They are in Rhode Island. Yes.
Oh, that's very cool. So, I mean, I wasn't sure exactly where they were when we were talking to them, but, maybe we can go and have coffee or something and see some of the haunted objects.
Maybe.
Rhode Island's very close.
We could go to one of their exhibits they have.
Do they have one in town here?
Well, we'll have to check their website, paranormalcouple.com, and find out.
That's
maybe we can join their Patreon while we're there.
Oh,
yeah.
I think that I would be more interested in the monthly case study membership, to be honest. So,
anything else tonight, Beth?
I'll look into that. No, that's probably about it for me. I'm excited to be back for a new season.
I don't know about that, Beth. Isn't tomorrow your birthday? Because this comes out on February 2nd.
So when people are listening to this, yes, the next day would be my birthday.
Happy
when I will be celebrating being 25. You. Happy 25th birthday to me. Happy annual 25th birthday to me. Thank you all for listening. And give us a 5-star review.
And tell a friend.
And tell a friend. I like it.
Oh, well, everyone, welcome to season 6. We're so happy you're all back with us. As always, you can find us online at GhostHuntingInNewEngland.com, which has been kind of updated recently. It's a sporadic update, but it's kind of there. On Instagram at GhostHuntingInNewEngland, Facebook.com/GhostHuntingInNewEngland, Twitter, GhostHuntingNE. That's mostly just my musings about life. Not a lot of ghost stuff.
And updates on her eye surgery.
My impending eye surgery, which I got a second opinion today. I'm going in for a third one next week. So, that's it. Thank you all so much. And as always,
email us GhostHuntingInNewEngland@gmail.com. Send us your drive-by ghostings. Answer the questions that we pose to you during the show. Send us, Amelia hasn't gotten any of those shirtless pictures in a while, and she's feeling that her husband might get upset if you send them, but you guys are so creative with those shirtless pictures that I think that you can send them all day long and we will just enjoy them tremendously. Oh, and when you're in a restaurant. Folks, this season, I actually wrote down a whole bunch of these about things that have been annoying me lately in restaurants. And I'm going to tell you them one at a time over the course of the whole season. Not today. And when you are in a restaurant, don't clap when people drop food or when they drop anything. You ever in a restaurant and like the poor waitress is running, and she drops a tray of drinks and there's some table that claps for her?
I saw this on your list. You sent me a photo of your list, and I'm like, I've literally never seen that happen.
How have you not seen this
Where
happen?
are you going to dinner? I've never seen that.
I have had this happen in multiple places.
I've never.
It's not like the whole restaurant claps, but it's like one table.
No, I've never seen that. What I have seen many times, and what has happened to me when I was a waitress who would drop a tray of drinks on the floor, is the entire place goes silent and everyone just stares at you, and it's mortifying. So,
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that happens. But there's a table that will clap, and it's mortifying. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Have you guys seen this happen? Write into the show, GhostHuntingInNewEngland@gmail.com.
And as always,
happy hunting.